Commander Kang Minho stood at the viewing window of the orbital station New Seoul, watching the alien ships approach. The vessels were unlike anything humans had ever seen. One ship looked like it was made of pure crystal, catching starlight and throwing it back in rainbow patterns. The other seemed to be made of flowing energy, constantly shifting and changing shape. "Sir, they're asking permission to dock," said Lieutenant Park at the communications station. "Grant it," Minho replied. He had been waiting for this moment his entire military career. First contact with alien life. The politicians on Earth had been preparing for years, but now it was really happening. The docking bay filled with a strange humming sound as the alien ships connected to the station. Minho walked quickly to the meeting room where the Earth delegation was waiting. Dr. Park Ji-won sat quietly in the corner, her notebook ready. She was Earth's top expert on ancient cultures and languages. Next to her sat Dr. Lee Han-ul, one of the best physicists on Earth. "Remember," Minho told his team, "we represent all of humanity today. Stay calm and be respectful." The doors opened and the aliens entered. The first group looked like walking crystals, their bodies catching the light and making small rainbows on the walls. Their leader was tall and moved with careful, precise steps. Behind them came the second group, which seemed to be made of pure light and energy. They floated slightly above the ground and made soft musical sounds as they moved. "Greetings, young ones," said the crystal being. A small device on his chest translated his words into human language. "I am Elder Zeflos of the Velthari. This is Harmonizer Kithara of the Ithmoran. We represent the Galactic Confederation." Minho stepped forward. "Welcome to New Seoul Station. I am Commander Kang Minho. We are honored by your visit." Elder Zeflos made a sound that might have been laughter. "How charming. Your species has only just learned to leave your small planet, and already you build stations in space. Quite impressive for such a young race." Dr. Park Ji-won looked up from her notes but said nothing. Dr. Lee Han-ul shifted in his seat. "We understand you wish to join the galactic community," continued Zeflos. "This is natural for developing species. However, you must understand your place. Your civilization is barely 10,000 years old. You have only just discovered fire and simple tools, in galactic terms." Harmonizer Kithara floated closer, making soft chiming sounds. "The young ones show promise," she said through her translator, "but they must learn much before they can truly contribute to galactic society." Minho felt a flash of anger but kept his voice steady. "We may be new to space travel, but humans have achieved much. We've ended wars, cured diseases, and created art and music that brings joy to billions." "Yes, yes," Zeflos waved a crystal hand dismissively. "All young species think their small achievements are remarkable. You will learn humility in time. The galaxy has civilizations that were building star-spanning empires when your world was still cooling from its formation." The Velthari Elder activated a holographic display that showed a map of the galaxy. Large sections were marked in different colors. "The blue areas are safe for young species like yourselves. You may explore and even settle there, with proper permission. The red areas are forbidden. They contain dangers that young minds cannot comprehend. Ancient weapons, dead civilizations, and things that could destroy your entire species if mishandled." Dr. Lee Han-ul leaned forward. "What kind of dangers?" "The kind that wiped out entire star systems," Kithara replied, her form flickering with what seemed like concern. "Civilizations older than your sun that played with forces beyond understanding. Their ruins still hold power that could unmake reality itself. Even we approach such places with great caution." Elder Zeflos gestured and new images appeared. "But do not worry. We will guide you as we have guided many young species. Here are the gifts we bring to welcome you to the galactic community." The first image showed a glowing sphere. "Fusion technology, clean and safe. Your primitive nuclear methods are dangerous and wasteful. This will power your worlds for thousands of years." The second image was a star chart. "Maps to nearby systems suitable for colonization. Worlds where young species can grow and learn without interfering with important galactic affairs." The third image showed various tools and machines. Basic space travel improvements. Your current ships are crude but functional. These upgrades will make them safer and faster. Minho looked at his team. The gifts were impressive, but something about the aliens' attitude bothered him. They spoke to humans like adults speaking to small children. "We are grateful for your generosity," Minho said carefully, "but we would like to contribute something in return. Perhaps we could share some of our own discoveries." Both aliens made sounds that were definitely laughter this time. "Young one," Zephylos said, "what could a species that has existed for mere moments in galactic time possibly offer those who have traveled the stars for millions of years? Your mathematics are basic, your physics elementary, your technology primitive. It would be like expecting wisdom from a newborn infant." Dr. Park Ji-won stood up slowly. "Elder Zephylos, if I may ask, how do you know so much about human history and development?" The crystal being's form seemed to brighten with pride. "We have studied your species from a distance for some time. Your archaeological record is quite clear. Cave paintings from 10,000 years ago, simple stone tools, the gradual development from hunter-gatherers to your current industrial age. A perfectly normal progression for a young species." Dr. Park nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And you've studied our historical sites?" "From orbit, yes. Quite fascinating to watch a primitive species develop. We have records of your entire civilization's growth." "Well then," Dr. Park said with a small smile, "perhaps before you leave you would like to visit some of our historical sites in person? See them up close?" Elder Zephylos and Harmonizer Kithara exchanged what seemed to be looks of amusement. "How delightfully eager you are to show off your simple achievements," Kithara chimed. "Yes, we suppose we could spare some time to view your cave paintings and primitive stone circles. It might be educational for our younger members to see how civilizations begin." "Excellent," Dr. Park replied, her smile growing slightly wider. "I think you'll find our historical sites quite interesting." Commander Minho noticed the look that passed between Dr. Park and Dr. Lee Hanul. There was something in their eyes that he had seen before. It was the same look they got when they knew something that others didn't. Something important. As the meeting ended and arrangements were made for the alien delegation to visit Earth, Minho couldn't shake the feeling that his team was planning something. Dr. Park Ji-won was one of the most brilliant archaeologists alive, and she never smiled like that unless she had discovered something remarkable. The aliens left the station confident in their superiority, talking among themselves about the cute young species they had just encountered. They had no idea what awaited them on humanity's homeworld. The transport ship landed on a mountain plateau in what the aliens knew as the Korean Peninsula. Elder Zephylos and Harmonizer Kithara stepped out, expecting to see simple cave entrances and maybe some primitive stone tools scattered around. Dr. Park Ji-won waited for them with Agent Yoon Dae-ho from Earth's Department of Xenological Security. Professor Kim Sora, a linguist, stood nearby with her translation equipment ready. "Welcome to one of our oldest sites," Dr. Park said cheerfully. "This mountain has been important to humans for a very long time." Elder Zephylos looked around with his crystal sensors. I detect some interesting mineral formations, but I see no obvious signs of primitive habitation. Where are your cave paintings?" "Oh, they're here," Professor Kim said. "But we'll need to go inside first." She led them to what looked like a natural crack in the mountain face. As they approached, Agent Yoon placed his hand on a seemingly random part of the rock. There was a soft humming sound and the crack widened into a doorway. "Simple pressure mechanism," Dr. Park explained as the aliens stared. "Our ancestors were quite clever. They walked into a tunnel that was clearly not natural. The walls were smooth and covered with carved symbols. Elder Zephylos stopped to examine them more closely. "These are not primitive scratches," he said, slowly. "These appear to be mathematical equations." Professor Kim nodded. "Yes, they are. This one describes the relationship between gravity and time. That one over there calculates the orbital mechanics of our solar system. And this section maps the positions of nearby star systems." Harmonizer Kithara floated closer to the wall, her energy form flickering with confusion. "But these calculations, they describe phenomena that require advanced understanding of physics. How could primitive humans know these things? Perhaps our ancestors weren't quite as primitive as your orbital observations suggested, Dr. Park replied mildly. They continued deeper into the mountain. The tunnel opened into a vast chamber filled with crystalline devices that hummed with power. Soft light flowed through crystal conduits in the walls, illuminating more complex equations and star charts. Engineer Choi Kyungmin was waiting for them in the chamber. He stood next to a control panel made of the same crystal material as the Velthari ships. "This is interesting," Elder Zeflos said, his voice losing some of its earlier confidence. "These crystals are similar to Velthari technology, but the design is different. More elegant." Engineer Choi touched the panel and it lit up with information. "Would you like to see how it works?" he asked. "Please," Kithara said, floating closer. Choi began operating the controls with practiced ease. The chamber filled with holographic displays showing detailed maps of the galaxy. But these weren't simple maps. They showed energy patterns, gravitational fields, and the movement of cosmic forces in ways that made both aliens step back in surprise. "Where did you obtain Prim Valdani technology?" Elder Zeflos demanded. "The Prim Valdani died out millions of years ago. They were the most advanced civilization the galaxy has ever known. Their secrets were lost when their star system was destroyed." Dr. Park looked confused. "Obtain? We didn't obtain this technology. We built it." "Impossible," Kithara chimed, her form now flickering rapidly with distress. "The mathematical principles alone would require millions of years to develop. Your species has only existed for 10,000 years. Professor Kim pulled out a tablet and showed them scans of the wall carvings. Actually, these symbols appear in human languages that are much older than 10,000 years. We found similar markings in caves around the world, all dating back much further than your observations suggested. She swiped to another image. This symbol, for example, appears in cave paintings that are over 50,000 years old. It represents a mathematical constant that your civilization uses in faster-than-light travel. But according to your records, that constant wasn't discovered until 30,000 years ago. Elder Zeflos walked to one of the crystal displays and studied it carefully. His form began to dim as he processed what he was seeing. These equations, they're not just similar to Prim Valdani mathematics. They're written in the same symbolic language, but that's impossible. The Prim Valdani writing system was never shared with other species. "Maybe," Agent Yoon said quietly. "Your information about the Prim Valdani is incomplete." Engineer Choi touched another control, and the display changed to show what looked like construction blueprints. "These are the original plans for this facility," he explained. "As you can see, it was built in sections over a very long period of time. The oldest parts date back about 4 million years. 4 million years? Kithara's musical voice cracked. "That's impossible. Your planet's geology shows no signs of advanced civilization older than 10,000 years. Dr. Park smiled. "That's because we didn't want it to. Come, let me show you something else." She led them to another part of the chamber where geological samples were displayed in crystal cases. "These rock samples come from different layers of Earth's crust. Notice anything interesting?" Elder Zeflos examined the samples with his advanced sensors. These lower samples contain traces of advanced materials, refined metals, synthetic compounds, but they're embedded in rock that's millions of years old. "That's correct," Dr. Park said. "Our ancestors were very good at hiding things. When they wanted to appear primitive, they simply buried all evidence of their advanced civilization under carefully constructed archaeological layers." Professor Kim activated another display. "We've been studying human languages for a long time. What we found is that many modern human languages contain root words that are identical to Prim Valdani terms. Not similar, identical. And these roots appear in human languages that predate any known contact with galactic civilization. But the genetic evidence," Harmonizer Kithara protested. "We scanned your species. Your DNA shows normal evolutionary development over the expected time frame." Agent Yoon exchanged a look with Dr. Park. "Actually, you might want to look at those scans again. This time scan deeper. Look at the inactive genetic sequences." Kithara extended energy tendrils and performed a detailed scan of Agent Yoon. After a moment, her form began to pulse with alarm. This cannot be accurate. Your inactive DNA contains genetic markers from multiple galactic species. But these markers are older versions, more complex than the current galactic standard. That's because, Dr. Park said gently, the galactic species didn't give us those markers. We gave them to the galactic species. Elder Zephylos was now studying the wall carvings with desperate intensity. If what you're suggesting is true, then everything we know about galactic history is wrong. The Primvaldani weren't just another ancient civilization. They were human. Engineer Choi nodded. The name Primvaldani is actually from an ancient human language. It means first wanderers. They were our ancestors who left Earth millions of years ago to explore and seed the galaxy with life. But why? Kithara asked, her voice now small and confused. Why hide? Why pretend to be primitive? If humans created galactic civilization, why not claim your rightful place as the elder species? Dr. Park walked to a final display that showed images of various galactic species throughout history. Because we learned something important a long time ago. Young civilizations develop better when they think they're pioneers, not when they know they're inheriting someone else's work. Every species in the galaxy needed to find their own path, make their own discoveries, develop their own cultures and values. She touched the display and it showed a timeline of galactic history with human involvement, carefully marked and then hidden. We've been watching and protecting, but from the shadows, guiding when necessary, but never controlling. Every major galactic achievement, every cultural breakthrough, every scientific discovery was real. We just made sure the right conditions existed for those discoveries to happen naturally. Elder Zephylos was silent for a long time. Finally, he spoke. The Crystal Wars. When our species nearly destroyed itself 2 million years ago, there were reports of mysterious ships that appeared and disappeared, preventing the worst weapons from being used. That was us, Agent Yoon confirmed. Just as we helped during the Great Ithmoran Convergence and the Zephyrian Plague and dozens of other crises. Harmonizer Kithara's form was now flickering weakly. We came here to offer guidance to a primitive species. Instead, we find that the primitive species has been our guardian all along. Dr. Park placed a gentle hand on the control panel, and the entire chamber filled with soft, warm light. Not guardians. Parents. Watching our children grow up, helping when needed but letting them find their own way. The two aliens stared at the ancient human technology surrounding them. Their entire understanding of the galaxy suddenly turned upside down. Everything they thought they knew about their own history, their own achievements, their own place in the universe, had just been revealed as part of a much larger story. And this was only the beginning. Captain Ro Sang-woo met the alien delegation at the coast, where the research vessel Baekdu waited in the harbor. Elder Zephylos and Harmonizer Kithara had been quiet during the flight from the mountain facility, both still processing what they had learned. Our next stop is a bit different, Captain Ro explained as they boarded the ship. This facility is located on the ocean floor, about 3 kilometers down. We use it to study Earth's oldest geological formations. Dr. Song Hyeri, a marine biologist, greeted them on deck. The deep ocean holds many of Earth's oldest secrets, she said. Things that have been hidden under miles of water and sediment for billions of years. As the Baekdu submerged, the aliens watched through the observation windows. The sunlight faded quickly, replaced by the ship's artificial lights illuminating the dark water around them. Your planet's oceans are quite deep, Kithara observed, her energy form adapting to the underwater environment. Much deeper than most worlds. Yes, Dr. Song agreed, and that depth has helped us hide things that needed to remain hidden until the right time. The ship approached what looked like a natural underwater mountain. But as they got closer, the aliens could see that the mountain's surface was covered with structures that were clearly artificial. Docking ports, sensor arrays, and what appeared to be massive doors built into the rock itself. "Welcome to Deep Archive Station," Captain Ro announced as they docked. Inside the facility, they were met by Dr. Zhang Wujin, whose specialty was something he called quantum archaeology. The alien translators struggled with the term. Quantum archaeology, Dr. Zhang explained, is the study of historical events using quantum mechanical principles. We can examine the quantum states of matter to determine what happened in the past, even billions of years ago. He led them to a laboratory filled with equipment that neither alien recognized. The machines hummed with power and displayed information in ways that seemed impossible. "This is fascinating technology," Elder Zeflo said, examining one of the devices. "But I don't understand how it works." "The principles are based on the quantum nature of time itself," Dr. Zhang replied. "Time isn't linear at the quantum level. Past, present, and future all exist simultaneously. With the right equipment, you can read the quantum history embedded in any piece of matter." He activated one of the machines and placed a small rock sample inside. The display filled with images showing the rock's history stretching back billions of years. But what the aliens saw made them both recoil in shock. The rock contained fossilized technology, not just simple tools but complex devices that were clearly artificial and incredibly advanced. The quantum timestamps showed these devices were over 4 billion years old. "This is impossible," Chithara whispered. "Your planet is only 4.5 billion years old. This would mean advanced technology existed when your world was barely formed." Dr. Zhang nodded. "That's correct. Human civilization has been on Earth since the planet was young. We've been here in one form or another for almost the entire history of this world." Dr. Lim Unbi joined them, carrying a tablet filled with genetic data. She specialized in xenological genetics, studying the relationships between different species across the galaxy. "We've been analyzing the genetic patterns of various galactic species," she explained, showing them complex family trees displayed on her tablet. "What we found was surprising. Every major galactic species shares genetic markers with life forms found on Earth. But there's something even more interesting." She switched to a new display. The Earth versions of these genetic patterns are older and more complex than the galactic versions. This suggests that life didn't spread from the galaxy to Earth. It spread from Earth to the galaxy. Elder Zeflo studied the genetic data with growing alarm. "You're saying that Velthari DNA contains Earth markers? That we're descended from Earth life?" "Not just Velthari," Dr. Lim replied. "Ithmorans, Ephirians, Nexal, Corvidians, almost every sapient species in the galaxy. You're all our children, in a very real biological sense." Bei Junho, a computer scientist, approached with his own tablet. "The biological evidence is just part of the story," he said. "I've been analyzing the mathematical foundations that underlie galactic technology. Faster than light travel, energy-matter conversion, quantum communication, all the major technologies that galactic civilization depends on." He showed them equations that appeared in languages from across the galaxy. "These mathematical principles appear in the databases of every advanced civilization. They're considered fundamental laws of physics. But here's the interesting part." He switched to another screen showing similar equations carved into stone. "These same equations appear in Earth's geological record, carved into rock formations that predate every current galactic civilization by millions or billions of years. What you're telling us," Harmonizer Kithara said slowly, "is that every major technological advance in galactic history was actually rediscovered human knowledge." "That's exactly what we're telling you," Dr. Zhang confirmed. "Human explorers seeded the galaxy with life and basic knowledge millions of years ago. As those species evolved and developed their own civilizations, they rediscovered the principles that humans had already established." Commander Nam Jisoo arrived to join the discussion. She worked for something called Earth's Temporal Research Division. "The seeding wasn't random," she explained. "It was carefully planned and executed over millions of years. We wanted to create a diverse galactic community where different species could develop their own unique cultures and approaches to problem solving." She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy over time. "Watch this timeline. You'll see how life and civilization spread from Earth outward in carefully planned waves. Each new species was given just enough knowledge to survive and develop, but not so much that they became dependent on their creators. The display showed human ships traveling to distant systems, establishing life on suitable worlds, and then withdrawing to let evolution and natural development take their course. But the humans never really left. They maintained hidden observation posts and occasionally intervened when young civilizations faced extinction-level threats. The crystal wars that nearly destroyed the Velthari, Commander Nam said, pointing to a specific event on the timeline. Human ships prevented the worst weapons from being used. The Great Plague that threatened the Ithmoran homeworld. Human. Medical technology provided the cure, delivered through apparently natural means. Elder Zephylos was studying the timeline with increasing distress. Every major event in our species' history. Every time we overcame a seemingly impossible challenge. You were there, weren't you? Helping from the shadows. Not helping, Dr. Songhyeri corrected gently. Just making sure our children had the chance to help themselves. Every victory, every discovery, every cultural breakthrough was genuinely yours. We just removed some of the obstacles that might have prevented you from reaching your full potential. She led them to another section of the facility, where massive displays showed the current status of galactic civilization. Thousands of species, millions of worlds, all thriving and growing and creating new wonders. This is what we've been working toward, Dr. Song explained. A galaxy full of diverse, intelligent life forms, each contributing their own unique perspective to the greater whole. Every species developing their own art, their own philosophy, their own approach to the challenges of existence. Dr. Lim Yunbi brought up genetic charts showing the incredible diversity that had emerged. Look at what you've all become. The Velthari's crystalline perfection, the Ithmoran's energy-based consciousness, the Zephyrian's hive-mind cooperation, the Nexal's individual brilliance. None of this could have existed if we had simply imposed human culture on the galaxy. Computer scientist Bei Junho added, and the technologies you've developed. FTL communication methods we never thought of. Artistic expressions that are completely unique. Scientific approaches that have taught us new things about the universe. You've become far more than we ever imagined you could be. Harmonizer Kithara was quiet for a long time, her energy form pulsing with deep thought. We came here believing we were the advanced ones ready to guide a primitive species. Instead, we find that the primitive species created us, guided us, and has been protecting us all along. Not primitive, Commander Nam said firmly. Different. We chose to appear primitive because we learned something important a very long time ago. The best way to help someone grow isn't to do everything for them. It's to give them the tools and the opportunity to solve their own problems. Elder Zephylos turned to face the humans. The forbidden zones, the red areas on our galactic maps that we warned you away from. Those aren't ancient ruins and dangerous weapons, are they? Captain Ro Sangwoo smiled. Some of them are ruins, yes, but most of them are human industrial zones, research facilities, and observation posts. We marked them as dangerous to keep young species from stumbling across them before they were ready to learn the truth. The two aliens looked at each other. Their entire understanding of the galaxy and their place in it completely transformed. They had come to Earth as representatives of advanced galactic civilization, ready to welcome a young species into the galactic community. Instead, they had discovered that they were the young. Admiral Otaman arrived at the Deep Ocean facility by high-speed transport, bringing with him Dr. Han McYung, Earth's leading expert on galactic psychology. The alien delegation was clearly in crisis, their fundamental beliefs about reality shattered by what they had learned. I understand you have questions, Admiral O said calmly as he entered the main conference room. Dr. Han has spent centuries studying how different species react to major revelations about their history and place in the universe. Elder Zephylos stood rigidly, his crystal form dimmed with confusion and distress. Centuries? How long do humans live? Much longer than we let most species believe, Dr. Han replied gently. When you've been managing galactic civilization for millions of years, you learn to take the long view on everything, including individual lifespans. Intelligence Officer Kwok Jin-hyuk joined them, carrying files that contained some of Earth's most closely guarded secrets. Admiral, we've prepared the full historical briefings they requested. Before we continue, Harmonizer Kithara said, her energy form flickering with anxiety. We need to understand something. Every major event in galactic history that we believed was natural, was it really human intervention? Dr. Han activated a massive holographic display that filled the entire room with a timeline of galactic events spanning millions of years. Not intervention, guidance. There's an important difference. The display showed the crystal wars that had nearly destroyed the Velthari civilization 2 million years ago. Your species was developing weapons that could destroy entire star systems, Dr. Han explained. Left unchecked, these weapons would have been used, and the Velthari would have made themselves extinct. But human ships appeared, Intelligence Officer Kwok added, appearing to be mysterious alien vessels from an unknown species. They disabled the most dangerous weapons just long enough for Velthari wisdom to prevail. Your own leaders chose to end the war. We just removed the temptation to use the ultimate weapons. Elder Zeflo studied the historical records. The ships that appeared during our darkest hour, we called them the Silent Guardians. Our legends say they came from beyond the known galaxy. They came from the Sol system, Admiral O confirmed. But we made sure your sensors couldn't trace them back to Earth. It was important that you believe your salvation came from mysterious benefactors, not from a species you would later encounter as apparent newcomers. The display shifted to show the Great Ithmoran convergence, when the energy-based species had nearly merged into a single consciousness and lost their individual identities forever. We faced the same crisis, Kithara said softly. The convergence was supposed to be our species' greatest achievement. Instead, it nearly destroyed everything that made us who we are. Dr. Han nodded. Energy beings who lose their individual consciousness become something else entirely. Something powerful, but without creativity, without growth, without the ability to love or dream or wonder. We had seen it happen to other species in the past. So you interfered? Kithara asked. We provided alternatives, Dr. Han corrected. New mathematical models that showed how individual consciousness could be preserved within group harmony, philosophical frameworks that your own thinkers could discover and debate. When the convergence began, your species had the tools to choose a different path. Historian Dr. Shin Young-ho brought up records of dozens of other incidents. The Zephyrian Plague, the Nexal Civil War, the Great Darkening of the Outer Rim. Every time a galactic species faced potential extinction or catastrophic cultural loss, we found ways to help without revealing ourselves. But why? Elder Zeflos demanded. Why hide? If you're truly the creators of galactic civilization, why not claim your rightful place as rulers? AI specialist Go Sumin answered from her workstation. Because rulers and subjects don't grow the way parents and children do. We tried direct rule once, early in our galactic expansion. The result was species that became dependent, uncreative, and ultimately unhappy. She brought up records from humanity's early colonial period millions of years ago. These species developed advanced technology because we gave it to them. They created art because we taught them. They solved problems because we showed them how. But they never learned to think for themselves. Environmental engineer Park Jinwoo joined the discussion with displays showing terraforming projects across the galaxy. When we changed our approach and began seeding worlds with basic life that could evolve naturally, the results were completely different. Species that had to struggle, that had to discover things for themselves, that had to face challenges and overcome them through their own efforts. They became what you are now, Admiral O said, gesturing to the two aliens. Creative, independent, unique. Every species in the galaxy has developed its own distinct culture, its own way of solving problems, its own artistic expressions and philosophical frameworks. Dr. Han brought up comparative studies. Species that receive too much help become stagnant. Species that receive too little help destroy themselves. But species that receive just enough help to survive their worst crises while still facing genuine challenges, they grow into something wonderful. Intelligence Officer Kwok activated security files showing human involvement in galactic politics. We've had observers embedded in every major galactic government for millennia, not to control but to understand, to know when guidance might be needed and when it should be withheld. The recent trade disputes between the Outer Rim colonies and the core worlds, Kithara said suddenly. There were mediators who appeared claiming to represent a neutral species. Those were humans too, weren't they? Dr. Kim Yunho and her diplomatic team, Admiral O confirmed. The disputes were escalating toward armed conflict. A few carefully placed suggestions about alternative solutions, presented by apparently neutral parties, allowed both sides to find a compromise they could accept. Elder Zephylos accessed his own memory files. The new agricultural techniques that saved the Velthari colony worlds during the Great Famine. The research appeared to come from our own scientists, but the initial data came from an anonymous source. Dr. Chang So-young's agricultural division, Park Jin-woo confirmed. We've been quietly sharing solutions to food production problems for thousands of years, always through channels that make it appear the discoveries came from within the affected species. The disappearances, Harmonizer Kithara said suddenly, her form brightening with realization. Aggressive species that appeared in the galaxy briefly, and then vanished without a trace. The Devourers, the Void Hunters, the Machine Collective. They didn't just disappear naturally, did they? Admiral O's expression grew serious. Some species don't respond to guidance. Some develop in ways that make them threats to all other life in the galaxy. When that happens, we intervene more directly. You destroy entire civilizations? Elder Zephylos asked, his crystal form flickering with alarm. We relocate them, Dr. Han corrected, to isolated galaxy clusters where they can't harm others. Or in extreme cases, we induce evolutionary pressure that encourages them to develop in less aggressive directions. The Devourers, for example, were relocated to a region where their feeding habits couldn't threaten inhabited systems. AI specialist Go Suman brought up the current galactic map. Every species currently in the galaxy has been evaluated for compatibility with peaceful coexistence. Those that couldn't adapt were given alternatives that didn't involve the destruction of other civilizations. This is overwhelming, Kithara admitted. You're telling us that every aspect of galactic civilization has been shaped by human intervention. Not shaped, Dr. Han said firmly. Guided, protected, encouraged. But every achievement, every discovery, every cultural breakthrough has been genuinely your own. We just made sure you had the opportunity to achieve those things. Environmental engineer Park Jin-woo activated displays, showing the incredible diversity of current galactic civilization. Look at what you've all become. Art forms we never imagined, scientific theories that taught us new things about the universe, social structures that work better than anything we ever developed. The Velthari's crystalline architecture, Dr. Shin Young-ho pointed out. It's beautiful in ways that human minds couldn't have conceived. The Ithmoran's energy sculptures that exist in 11 dimensions. The Zephyrian's collective poetry that requires thousands of voices to create a single work. You've exceeded our wildest hopes, Admiral O said. Each species has found its own unique way to contribute to galactic civilization. You've created wonders we never could have imagined when we first began seeding worlds with life. Dr. Han walked to the center of the room. That's why we hid our true nature. Not out of deception, but out of love. We wanted you to become everything you could be, not pale copies of what we already were. The two aliens were quiet for a long time, processing everything they had learned. Finally, Elder Zephylos spoke. What happens now? Now that we know the truth, what does that mean for the galaxy? Admiral O exchanged glances with his team. That, Elder Zephylos, is exactly what we need to discuss. President An Kyung-soo arrived at the facility in a ship that made the alien delegates realize how much human technology they had never seen. The vessel seemed to bend space around itself, arriving instantly from Earth's surface without any visible propulsion or energy signature. Fleet Admiral Hong Myung-suk and Chief Science Advisor Dr. Ko Yoon-ji accompanied the president, along with several other officials whose titles the alien translators struggled to process. Elder Zephylos, Harmonizer Kithara, President An said formally. I apologize for the deception we have maintained for so long, but I hope you now understand why it was necessary. The two aliens had spent hours in private discussion, trying to process everything they had learned. Their entire understanding of galactic history, Their own species' achievements and their place in the universe had been completely overturned. President An, Elder Zeflos said carefully, "We need to understand what happens next. Do you intend to reveal this truth to the entire galaxy?" Strategic Advisor Yu Dongyun stepped forward with data tablets. "That depends on whether the galaxy is ready for the truth. We've been monitoring the psychological and cultural development of all galactic species for centuries. The question is whether they're mature enough to handle this revelation." Cultural. Anthropologist Dr. Seo Ji-woo activated displays showing detailed studies of galactic civilizations. Most species go through predictable stages of development: early expansion, where they explore and colonize new worlds; technological advancement, where they master their environment; social evolution, where they develop stable, peaceful societies; and finally, wisdom, where they understand their place in the larger universe. According to our studies, Dr. Seo continued, most major galactic species have reached the wisdom stage within the last few thousand years. They've developed ethical frameworks, peaceful coexistence protocols, and the emotional maturity to handle difficult truths about their past. Diplomatic Corps Director Yang Sehun brought up communication records. "We've been receiving reports from hidden human observers in every major galactic civilization. These observers have lived among your species for generations, monitoring cultural development and social progress." "Hidden observers?" Kithara asked, her energy form flickering with surprise. "Every species has them," Yang confirmed. "Humans who have modified their appearance and biology to blend in completely. They've been sending reports to Earth for millennia, helping us understand how each species thinks, what they value, and how they might react to various revelations." Data analyst No Sun-hee pulled up summarized reports from across the galaxy. "The Velthari observers report that your species has developed strong philosophical frameworks for dealing with unexpected truths. Your crystal meditation practices and logical analysis methods should help your people process this information. The Ithmoran observers," she continued, "report that your energy-based consciousness actually makes it easier for your species to accept paradigm shifts. Your ability to exist in multiple states simultaneously means you're comfortable with complex, seemingly contradictory realities." Elder Zeflos studied the reports about his own species. "These observers, they've been living among us, studying us for our entire recorded history?" "Yes," President An confirmed. "But not to spy or control, to understand, to make sure that when this moment came, we would know how to present the truth in a way that each species could accept and integrate into their worldview." Security Chief Lim Jae-hoon brought up more sobering data. "However, not all species may react positively. Some civilizations have developed ideologies based on their belief in their own superiority or independence. Learning that they've been guided by another species might cause serious cultural trauma." He showed psychological profiles of various galactic governments. The Nexal hegemony, for example, has built their entire political system on the belief that they are the most advanced species in the galaxy. The Corvidian Empire bases their expansion policies on the assumption that they have the right to claim any territory because of their superior evolution. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Chun Boyoung added medical concerns. Some species might experience physical symptoms from the psychological shock. The Trilaxians, for instance, could enter hibernation comas if their fundamental beliefs are challenged too severely. "Which brings us to the choice we're offering," President An said, bringing everyone's attention back to the central issue. "We can continue as we have for millions of years. Humans maintain the pretense of being a young species, while secretly continuing to guide and protect galactic civilization." Strategic Advisor Yu outlined the first option. "Under this arrangement, nothing changes from your perspective. The galactic community continues to develop naturally, with hidden human guidance during major crises. Your species continue to grow, explore, and achieve, believing they're doing it entirely through their own efforts. The advantage," Dr. Ko Yoonji explained, "is stability. No cultural trauma, no political upheaval, no species questioning their achievements or their place in the galaxy. But there are disadvantages too. cultural anthropologist Dr. Zio admitted. Continued deception means we can't work together openly. It means we can't share certain advanced technologies or knowledge that might benefit everyone. And it means that humans remain isolated from the galactic community they helped create. President An gestured to Fleet Admiral Hong, who brought up the second option. Alternatively, we can begin a gradual revelation process. Starting with the most psychologically advanced species and their leaders, we slowly introduce the truth about human involvement in galactic history. This would be a carefully managed process, Diplomatic Corps Director Yang explained. We would work with each species' leaders to find the best way to present this information to their people. Some species might learn the full truth immediately. Others might need years or decades to process it gradually. Data analyst No brought up timeline projections. Based on our psychological studies, we estimate it would take between 50 and 200 years for all major galactic species to fully accept and integrate this knowledge. The advantages are obvious, Dr. Ko said. Open cooperation between humans and galactic species, shared technology and knowledge, true partnership in exploring the universe and facing future challenges. Security Chief Lim highlighted the risks. But the disadvantages include potential political instability, cultural upheaval, and the possibility that some species might react with aggression or withdrawal. Elder Zeflos and Harmonizer Kithara consulted with each other in their native languages before responding. "What would you need from us?" Zeflos asked finally. "Your honest assessment of how your species would react," President An replied, "and if we proceed with gradual revelation, your help in managing the process for your respective civilizations. We would also need you to return to the Galactic Confederation with a decision," Strategic Advisor Yu added. "Do they want to continue the current arrangement, or are they ready to begin learning the truth?" Dr. Seo Jiwoo brought up one final consideration. There's also a third option. We could reveal the truth only to government leaders and a small group of scientists and philosophers from each species. The general populations would continue to believe in their independent development, but the leadership would know the full situation and could make informed decisions about their species' future. Chief Medical Officer Dr. Chun noted, "This option minimizes cultural trauma while allowing for some degree of open cooperation between human leadership and galactic leadership." President An walked to the center of the room. "The choice is yours to make, not just as individuals but as representatives of your species and the galactic community. We've waited 4 billion years for this moment. We can wait longer if necessary." Harmonizer. Kithara's energy form pulsed with deep thought. "You've been watching over us, protecting us, guiding us for our entire existence. Why give us this choice now? Why not simply continue as you have?" Fleet Admiral Hong answered. "Because you've grown up. All of the galactic species have reached a level of maturity where continued deception may actually hold you back from reaching your full potential," Dr. Ko Yoonji added. "There are challenges coming that will require the combined knowledge and abilities of all galactic species, including humans. Climate changes in the galactic core, the approach of extragalactic civilizations, fundamental shifts in the nature of spacetime itself. We need to work together openly to face these challenges," President An said. "But only if you're ready. Only if the galaxy can handle the truth about its own history." Elder Zeflos looked around the room at the humans who had just revealed themselves to be the oldest, most advanced species in the galaxy. "When you first seeded the galaxy with life, did you know it would lead to this moment?" Dr. Park Ji-won, who had started this entire revelation process, stepped forward. "We hoped. We dreamed. But we didn't know. That's what makes this moment so precious. You've all become something we never could have predicted or planned." She activated one final display showing the current state of galactic civilization. Thousands of species, millions of worlds, countless varieties of art, science, philosophy, and culture, all thriving and growing and creating new wonders.